Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Geek Authority Show. I'm your host, Lorenzo Marchessi, and this is the show where I get to interview all kinds of exciting and talented people, actors, writers, directors, cosplayers, producers, all kinds of people behind the scenes, front of the camera, on stage, off stage. And today I have an extra special guest, someone I've known for quite a while. He's been involved with both theater, movies, television. He's a writer, he's a director, he's a producer. I think he bakes cookies. He does it all. His name is Lloyd Schwartz. Welcome, Lloyd. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, Lorenzo. Good to see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you have a wide and varied career, and for those of you out there who don't know, he's from the Schwartz family, and I'll let him tell you more about that. But let's start at the beginning. Were you born and jumped on a typewriter, or how did this all?
Well, you were right. I come from a legacy. My father started off as a radio writer for Bob Hope with his brother, and then they got into television. And I joined him in television. But before that, I was always writing. I was writing in junior high. I was writing in high school. I have a degree in writing from UCLA, a master's in television writing. And during all that time, I was also like a dialogue coach for dad shows. I worked on Gilligan's Island. I worked on It's About Time. And then I did a stand-up comedy thing for a while. I was part of a black-white comedy team. We were called Carruthers and Blood in the 60s, and it was very radical. And we were thrown out of most of the clubs in those days.
Wow. Okay.
And
what age were you? What age was that?
Pardon me?
What age was that? What age were you doing that?
I was about 20, 22, something in there.
Here in LA?
Yeah, in Los Angeles. There weren't comedy clubs in those days. We would be in folk song clubs. And there was no Laugh Stop or Laugh Factory or Comedy Store. And so we would always beg to go on, after some girls singing about trees or something. And then we would go on and people would get very upset, with what we were saying. And so
it's because it's topical and taboo.
Very topical. Yes. And I think you warned me, I can't use some of the words now that we use then, but you get the idea.
So it's safe to say you pretty much grew up in Hollywood,
yes,
on various Hollywood sets. I mean, when you were, say, a toddler going through grade school, high school, whatever, did you kind of follow your father, or did you?
Not very much. He was kind of a man who went to work and came home, and we didn't really know what he did. I started to get interested. He was doing the Red Skelton show. And I went to a few of those tapings, and I thought that was interesting. And then when I was in high school, he did Gilligan's Island. Okay. And that's when I went to the set the first time and was actually captivated by what was going on. And
captivated by the set, by the process?
Yeah, the whole thing. It's even today, if ever I'm on a set, even doing a show of mine, there's always something I don't understand. And I'm curious about all of it. And there was, the first time I was on Gilligan's Island, they were filming at the lagoon, and there was a grip stand which had at the top of it was a big twig, and everybody was walking around it. Don't move, don't touch that thing. Well, that twig created a shadow on the ground which covered the shadow of the boom mic, and so they wouldn't see that. And that I thought I knew everything up until that moment. And then as soon as I saw that, I hear something I didn't know. And since that time, there's always something I don't know.
Wow. And for those who don't know, the boom is the device that holds the microphone to capture the audio of a set kind of situation. So you're seeing this, basically you're watching the technical process of the show being made. And let's back up just a little bit, because your father, Sherwood Schwartz, is also the creator of probably one of the most iconic shows ever, Brady Bunch, and that came later. That was like in the 70s, right?
Yeah. What happened for me in that show was Dad had written the pilot of the Brady Bunch, and I was at UCLA, and they were going to start to film the series in the summer. And he came and he said, "Would you like to be dialogue coach on this show?" Because I already been a dialogue coach, and I said no, because I wanted my own career. By that time, I'd already written Love American Style. So I was starting off on my own career. And he said, "Well, yeah, but who would you recommend for this position?" I said, "Well, you need somebody who's worked with kids." He said, "Well, you actually ran a summer camp." I said, "Well, yeah, that's true." And he said, they need somebody who has a, writing background. He said, well, you have a degree in comedy writing. He says, and you've got somebody who's been a performer. And he said, well, you've done your stand-up. Okay. I'm the right guy. Okay, I do it. And so
that's your dad talking to you, right?
Yes. And he talked me into it. So then I was the dialogue coach for these 6 kids. He said, here's these 6 Brady Bunch kids. And he didn't tell me how to do the job or anything. I just did it my own way. And it was.
That's my next question. What does a dialogue coach do?
Well, it's not that you help people with accents and things. This is for the way I defined it was I just made sure that kids knew all their lines, knew why they were saying what they were saying, and were ready to act when they got into the set. And so that was it. But we developed a kind of a uncle, niece, nephew relationship with them. And I would go to their houses at night because I was single, and I would get a free meal, and we would talk about, because in each episode one kid was featured, and so I'd go to that kid's house and we'd talk about it. And it was a really wonderful kind of relationship. And that lasted for a year, almost 2 years as dialogue coach. And then I went to Dad and I said, I quit. And he said, why? I said, well, they're starting to send me out. The studio is starting to send me out with other shows with kids. Uh-oh. And I said, I don't want to be a dialogue coach for kids. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I could be associate producer of this show. And he said, well, I can't do that, but I can make you a production associate as long as you continue working with the kids. And I said, okay. And so after about 7 episodes of that season, 3rd season, he said, I said, I'm doing the job of the associate producer, and I have everything except the title and the money. I said, he said, well, you had to prove yourself, which you've done. So you're now associate producer. So then I was associate producer at 22, 23 years old. And then about toward the end of the season, I said, I think I want to direct. And he said, well, okay, because we put all these, we have given other directors their chances. And so I directed. And I'll say this, that I did a good job. So much so that the network wanted me to direct a bunch of episodes the next season. Really? And I said, yeah. And I said, I don't want to do that. I said, I don't want to be a TV director. I want to be a producer. And so they made me a producer. So the fourth or fifth year of the Brady Bunch, I was the youngest producer in the business, and I'm producing. And in terms of Brady Bunch, since then, I've written all the Brady Bunch things with my dad and all the reunion movies. And then I'm just finishing up Brady. Brady's never finished up, by the way. There's a lot of things, but over isn't one of them. Brady, we're
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I got for those out there in the audience, and you're the perfect person to ask. What exactly is what does the job of a production associate, line producer, and executive producer do? What are the How do you break them down?
The only one that is absolutely defined of the people you just mentioned was line producer. Okay. Because a line producer is a person who takes care of the details, making sure the set's there, get right in the film, all of those kind of things, working with the unit manager, getting the schedule right, the details. That's the line producer. All those other titles, they're all blur. Because on some shows, the associate producer is entitled to post-production. He's in charge of that. On some shows, it's the woman who's sleeping with the producer, and she gets the title associate producer. I mean, because she associates with the producer, I guess. And so now there have been executive producers who have been dead. There have been executive producers who kind of set the taste level. There have been executive producers who are quote unquote showrunners who run the whole show. But sometimes that's the producer, So
okay, I thought a showrunner is kind of like an English term, because they call their people in charge of the shows showrunners, and I've heard people say that kind of now. But so, like, if I watched, I don't know, Supergirl, Game of Thrones, whatever, you'd see executive producer and 10 names, and then producer 5 names, and it's like, they really have that many people?
No, they don't. They don't, and they shouldn't have all those titles. I've been against all of that. I mean, I think, but it's, they reward people. Sometimes they get a star to be on the show and said, we'll give you a producer credit too. So you see executive producer credit. But everybody knows in Hollywood, they know who was the show runner, which is usually the title executive producer gets that title. But there's
Right.
also always a lot of those. But there's always one person who is the showrunner, and that person is, and everybody knows who it is. So the other people, the other titles are just kind of given and negotiated out.
Okay. So
Yeah.
and if you create a series, like your father created several,
Yeah.
does he automatically get the executive producer, or is it just, how does that work?
Almost automatic. Yeah, we did a show called Harper Valley PTA. We did that show together, and I'm not sure what title we had because I always do the same job, but I have all these different titles. Because that show there was a song, and then there was a movie, and then there was other people who preceded us, and so we may have just had the title producer, and we maybe didn't get created by credit. Maybe we got developed by credit because there was a movie and there was all those things it's amorphous. It's amorphous. I think there should be a producer in charge of figuring out who gets all these titles.
Wow. So who does it? Is it like done by lawyers? Your
A lot
agent?
of times, studio executives and lawyers and business affairs. Yeah.
Okay. And since we're kind of on that subject, how does it compare in terms of when you were starting involved in the 60s, early 70s, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, and producing shows now? Isn't
Yeah.
it much more? I mean, you've got a broader spectrum. Back then, you only had three major networks. Now
Right.
you've got streaming and internet and
Right.
pay TV. And what's the difference in the business now? More work?
Yeah. Oh, so there's certainly more work because there's many more avenues. In some ways, it's limited because there's an ageism thing, and
Okay.
now when you want to do a show now, there's diversity is a major thing. Well, in the creation of a show, shows are different because let's say you're doing a streaming show, so now they have arcs of stories. Where we used to do Brady Bunch, episodes would stand alone. If you said this episode, it didn't lead to the next episode. And now you have to see where everything is going all the time. And also, maybe there's no commercials anymore. And you used to create a show having a teaser, and then there would be a commercial, and then there would be a first act. And at the end of the first act, remember, oh my God, that problem you had, it's worse in the second act. That's the way a show would be built with tags.
Like you have mini cliffhangers before every commercial.
Yeah. And now there's cliffhangers at the end of an episode if there's streaming,
Okay.
And so, but the good news about television now is there is a place for everything. If you create a show, there is a place for it. And before, you're right, there used to be three networks, and it had to kind of service it was all broadcasting, and now we're narrowcasting, which was you create a niche show for a certain place.
Okay. So the big streaming ones like Network and now HBO Plus and now Disney jumped on the bandwagon. They've in my impression, because of the programming they're doing, it seems like they're becoming their own networks that have their own communities of I don't know audience, I guess.
And they have different each of those places have different needs of the kind of shows they want to do. We're doing a Brady thing, a new Brady series pilot right now. It's just in script, but it would be for CBS All Access. I can't tell you what it's about because that has to be later on. It has to go public, but it's very unique and it's for one of those streaming things. So it's not a network show. I mean, you look at the show and you say that's not a network show. You can tell what a network show is. It's usually about a hospital, to begin with, or it's a different version with something with a bunch of initials, CSI, Blythe or whatever they're doing now. But that's, those are kind of network shows, or rather traditional situation comedy set in a home, and or young people, and then they're in the apartment, and then they go to the bar. It's
right. Now I'm curious. You got this project you can't talk about, I understand, with CBS Access, but is there a reason? I mean, is it probably because they offered it or said this was a good idea? But is there a reason you want it to go to a how do I say this? A paid environment versus CBS broadcast, where you have a broader audience? I would imagine.
There's not. I don't think you're dealing with the term broader audience anymore. I mean, there's
really.
You
think
network shows only get 3 or 4 shares or 5 shares. When we did Brady Bunch, it got a 30 share. But so now all these places, and they have different ways to equate and figure out how ratings come about.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
so it's
the reason I asked that is I'm getting tired of all these, like Warner Brothers just did it with HBO Max Plus or whatever.
yeah,
Now you gotta pay. It's like
that's right.
I think they're gonna shrink the market a little because people don't have a lot
They
of
may.
money these days.
They may. Listen, you're your own programmer. You're your own programmer. You get on the cable, you can watch anything you want. And
Oh,
I taught at UCLA for 8 years and
right.
producing for television. And they were I can't say I saw this coming exactly because I wasn't prescient enough to know that there'd be computers because this was before that. But I felt that they were starting to do cable, and I saw the network shares going down. And I said, okay, well, eventually you're going to be your own programmer and you're going to, I thought, call on your phone and order what you want. And it
Okay.
didn't go that way exactly, but it certainly is that way now.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's all healthy. This Brady show, I got a lot of other things happening too, but this Brady show I'm doing in conjunction with my son, my older son. And so that continues the legacy within the family. So
Wow. And
yeah.
can I ask his involvement? Is he writing, producing?
Oh, he's writing. He'll be the showrunner, and I'll be this glorious emeritus kind of old guy who comes around and goes, "That's good."
Um,
So
Tell me what I can't ask, but is it live action?
yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But
Okay.
Brady has been. I want to get off of Brady because I love theater, and you know mostly a theater.
Okay. Okay.
But Brady has been a half-hour show, a three-camera live action three-camera show, a cartoon show, a reality show, a dramatic show, a variety show, and feature films, and TV movies. I mean, I think it's and it has been on every network and on many of the cable networks. So there we go.
Okay.
So,
All
yeah,
right. Let's switch to theater now.
good.
You come from obviously the production background with your father doing TV and movies. When did
Yeah.
you get the? When did you? Do you remember what age you went into a theater and said, "Wow, I could write for this. I could do for this."
Well, I it's funny because it's source of reading material. We got a magazine called, I think it was Theater. I don't know. It was a magazine, and they'd have a play in there every month that it came out, and I would always read the play. That was what I was interested in reading, for reading plays. I didn't read. I read fairy tales, which also came up later when I did storybook theater. But that was, and I was just always went to plays. My choice of music was not what other people were listening to, and I was listening to Broadway musicals, you know. And I didn't think about writing a play until I worked with Ann B. Davis on Brady Bunch, and she said she was doing a thing called dinner theater,
Okay.
and I was engaged to Barbara at the time, and well, where are you doing this play? And Shreveport, Louisiana, and I said, well, we'll go, and so we went, and we went to Shreveport, and we saw the play, and it was a terrible play.
Uh-oh.
And I asked Annie, because we were very close, Annie and I said, why are you doing this terrible play? And so she said, well, nobody's written a play for dinner theater. It was a certain kind of market. And they had taken plays from Broadway, but Broadway was doing very esoteric, kind of gritty things that they didn't want to see in the middle of the country. And I said, well, if that's the case, I'll write you a play. And so I had just done a movie with Wendell Burton. We did a movie called Goodnight Jackie. And we went to a premiere somewhere in Bakersfield. And on the way back from there, I said to Wendell, you want to write a play with me? And he said, okay. And so we wrote this play, and Ann B. read it. We had a reading, and in the apartment. And Annie said they wanted her, because she was a big star, and they wanted her to do a play in Granny's Dinner Theater in Dallas, Texas. And so usually it's hard to get a play on, but the guy in Dallas, Texas just wanted Annie. He didn't care what she did. And so he said, I'll put it on even if it's in Chinese. And so
Okay. And for those who don't know, Ann B. Davis was the maid on the Brady Bunch.
She was right. She was Allison. She was wonderful.
And what an amazing! I never met her, but I understand she was an amazing person, an amazing talent.
Yeah, and we were very close. It was. I'll tell you one story. her birthday, my birthday's May 2nd. Her birthday was May 1st.
Hmm.
And so I would always call her on her birthday. And then she started figuring out that I was calling her birthday because my birthday was the next day. So she would call like on April 30th. And so we would talk, and then I figured out what she was doing. So I would call on April 29th. And then we just
Backwards. Okay.
yeah.
Very
So
good.
anyway, we did the play in Dallas, and it was a big hit actually. And it was turned out to be the first play ever written for dinner theater in the United States. It
What
got
was it
published
called?
by called The Nearlyweds.
The
And it's
Nearlyweds.
The
Okay.
Nearlyweds. And it's published by Samuel French. And I had certain rules that I said, okay, you're going to have, it's got to be one set because, it, economics of it. And has to have a young love and has to have a character speaking to the audience and has to have 3 acts because they were drinking in between the acts, the audience. And so I did all that. And I found out it was the first play written for dinner theater. And I just fell in love with theater at that point because up until then, I would always satisfy millions of people. People would see what I did, millions of people would watch. And here there'd be 75, 100. This particular theater was a big theater. It seemed small to me because there were like 350 people, but that was like nothing. I'm used to doing with millions. But I really fell in love with the immediacy of it and the communication with the audience. And I just thought it was great. And since then, I've had 43 plays produced.
Wow.
Which is a lot, and of all different kinds, And I think it keeps me sane because the rest of the business is not particularly sane.
Okay. You've been involved with Theater West for decades, right?
Yeah,
How
35 years.
how many?
35.
Wow. Okay. So who introduced you to Theater West?
Well, Barbara was a member of Theater
Okay.
West, and at that time our son was 3, and we wanted to go take him to children's theater. So we went around the city and we went to different children's theater plays. And we were not particularly fond of what they were doing in these plays. And Barbara says, can you write a play for us to do? And so we did a play in the park right near our house. And it was Little Red Riding Hood, musical Little Red Riding Hood. And I wrote the book, the music and the lyrics, and directed. And Barbara was the character and the grandmother, the mother. And we called upon our friends, Jerry Hauser and Ron Coleman, who had been in Brady Brides. So Jerry was the wolf, and Ron Coleman, who had been in Chorus Line and Brady Bride, he was the woodcutter. And we had a Phyllis Franklin was the granny, and we did it at a theater, in an auditorium at a park. And I had no understanding why anybody would go, but we did it, and 1,000 people went over 2 weekends. And
So this was part of Theater West?
no, it was not
Oh,
part of the Theater West yet.
Okay.
And so we weren't a business, and so I didn't really have a small business license or anything. So I gave the money to the park, and we paid our expenses. And Barbara then ran into a friend of hers who was also a member of Theater West, and said, "What are you doing?" And Barbara told her about this play, and said, "Well, we should do a children's theater at Theater West. Would you come over and talk to us about it?" So I went over to Theater West. I was not a member. I knew the people, and they said we want to be. At that time, Bank of America had an advertisement going, full service bank, and so they wanted to be a full service theater. And so they said children's theater, and they said, "Would you do this here using our members?" And I said, "Okay." And then they said, "Would you pay for it?" And so
Okay.
theater is always right on the edge of money. And so I said, "Well, I'm happy to pay for it if I get to keep the profits." And they said, "Good," because they'd never made any profits before. And so they didn't think they were giving anything up. And so we did the play, we made a profit. And so then they said, "Well, we don't like this arrangement anymore." So they said, "We'll pay for everything and then we'll keep the profits." And I said, "That's fine." I was not particularly, it was not going to be a money-making venture. And so the rest is history. So we've been there for 35 years. I didn't think after the first one I had another play in me, children's play, and now we've written 19. And they're all different.
What you're doing is you're taking the classic fairy tales and
Mostly.
giving them music and twisting the stories a little. They're kind of fun.
Yes, I know you've seen some.
At least
I
5 or 6.
we don't, it's not exclusively favorite fairy tales, but now we are only doing the ones that are fairy tales because those are the only ones that draw because they have name value. So we'll do Snow White and Little Red Riding Hood and Jack and the Beanstalk. We did a space show, and I love all the shows. We did a space show. We did a Western, but Mother Goose the musical we did, but they don't draw as well as the others, and they're all equally as good. And then we even done some fairy tales that are not as well known, like we did Pied Piper, something like that. So we've now kind of restricted. We have a repertoire, and we just bring them back now. We did a new one this last year. I don't know if you saw it. We did Peter Rabbit, The Adventures of Peter Rabbit.
Didn't that just open in March?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Before the pandemic? Yeah, I didn't get to see it because 2 weeks later it was
That's right.
Shut down.
But it was, I'm not sure because it was, again, it felt a little young because our audience is about 7 and that felt a little about 3. And so
really?
So we have to, it's a business and we don't want to lose money. And so we like the plays and we bring them back.
What's nice about the Children's Theater too at Theater West here in Los Angeles, you got a plethora of talent that really has fun with the roles. I mean, they're just, and it's kind of theater, just so you know, for people who have never seen a Theater West, it's called Storybook Theater. The characters interact with the audience, the kids. Right. And sometimes the kids come up on stage and it's a whole different kind of theater, very immersive. And don't get me wrong, it's great, well written, but there are some double entendre stuff that's written for the adults. Yes. And I swear to God, the kids are like, phew, and the adults are laughing, and I'm like, it's really good theater for the family.
When we have those kind of lines in there, it's like when we did a space show, they had to leave blast off musical mission to Mars. And they had to leave Mars, and they said, it's time to go. He says, well, the moon is in the 7th house and Mercury is lined with Mars, which for the people who know hair, that's a line from there. So we don't want to leave the kid audience in the dust. I've seen a lot of children's plays where they stop and they have an adult line and the kids are going, what's going on? We hit it as we go.
What's fun is that you sprinkle it. That's how well written it is. So when you don't see it coming, it hits you and you're like, okay, that was hysterical. And like kids are like totally like they're into the movement, the visuals. It's very well written, very, very well produced.
I thank you.
A great family experience. It's immersive for the whole family. So don't just think you're dragging your kids to see Little Red Riding Hood. You're going to be entertained just as much. Trust me.
We've also had and I hope you had Barbara on because she'll talk to you more about it. But we have done, we've gotten lots of awards for working with kids and field trips and things. And we've had autistic kids have come to the theater, and 2 of them have spoken for the first time in the theater.
Wow.
Which was amazing. It affects them in a different way. Every time we have autistic kids come to the theater, they're always much more active than they're home. And I watch the parents, and the parents are always sobbing because the kids are doing things they never did before.
They're involved. They're involved. Yeah. Very cool. And what's great is too, you'd bus children in, wouldn't you? Whole school. So
in fact, before the pandemic, we had 14 more field trips we had to cancel because of the pandemic. But we have like 25, 35 field trips every year.
Wow. So are you on the board of Theater West? What's your involvement?
No, we're just the children's theater there. I'm a very active member now. But no, I'm not on the board.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm allowed on the board. I'm an honorary member because they got, they felt they owed me something after the first couple of years of the children's theater. So they said, why don't we make you an honorary member?
Wow. Okay. Let's take a quick little look here. You sent me some images, and let's talk about these. Can you see it?
Yeah, that would be me.
That would be you, and I believe that's Marcia and Greg Brady, right?
Right. I like that picture only because see at the bottom. So if people ever decide to ask for an autograph, I can write my name there on the white part down there.
Oh, are those bobbleheads? Is that what those are? Yeah. Okay. Let's tell us about. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, well, that was me when we did Carruthers and Blood. That's the comedy team.
Right. And this was
That was a record album.
right. I
And
was just going to say it was a stand-up that you recorded. Wow. Okay. Is it
I lost you a little bit. What's your question?
okay? It's your stand-up routine that was recorded.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We cut an album, and that's a collector's item now. It wasn't. We had a modest degree of success. We then got in a lot of trouble with the CIA and the FBI, and then there were some murders involved, and
Uh-oh.
he was killed. So it's not a time that it was. It was. Remember, it's the '60s. It was a very tough time.
So is
And
there any place anybody can hear this now, or is it pretty
no,
much
no,
okay?
no, no.
Wow. And but you have a copy, right?
I have a copy.
I got to hear it someday. I got to hear it.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
That's yeah. We did Brady Bunch. That was me and Joe Namath. I was trying to teach him how to throw a pass.
Really teaching him
Yeah, I
how to throw a
remember
pass.
this was the year after he won the Super Bowl. So I went to him. I said, Joe, how are you going to do this year? And he said, bet on us, bet on us. And I did. And they went 3-12.
Wow. How was he to work with? Was he pretty cool?
He was a great guy. Great guy. He was throwing, he'd take a ball and he'd throw it to all the people up in the scaffolding and stuff. And Florence, who was quite bawdy, she was not exactly Mrs. Brady. She jumped up into his arms as soon as he came into the show. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's always fun to hear.
Good guy.
I've heard Florence is so down to earth and fun and all that. So
She was terrific. She was terrific.
all right, who's this stud? Look at this
Yeah,
guy.
that was me when I was doing dialogue coach work.
You're how tall are you?
Huh?
How tall are you?
I'm 6 feet tall.
Okay, because you look
I'm six.
pretty
Yeah.
broad shouldered. You could be a football player.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't do that. I was
I
a
don't-
cheerleader.
Okay. Oh, I love this. That's Phyllis.
Okay. Yeah, well, when I was president of my fraternity, and so everybody said, let's have an honorary house mother. That was my idea. Let's get some publicity. And everybody was suggesting like Raquel Welch or something. And I said, no, let's get Phyllis Diller to be honorary house mother of our fraternity. And I didn't know her or anything, so I just called up her, her press agent, and I said, this is what we have. And so we ended up doing they ended up a national hookup and everything. And she actually took her job seriously as house mother. She sent bus for us and took her to movie premieres, and she sent pizza for us and everything.
Wow.
She's great.
I
She's
like on the
great.
top. I like on the photo notes on the top. UCLA. Is that what I see?
Yeah.
UCLA. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
What year was this?
Well, it'd have to be 67, 66, 67, something like that.
Do we know anybody else besides you and Phyllis?
In the picture, no.
Okay.
No, I don't know them anymore.
Okay.
I
I don't know if
if
one
I
of
can
them.
name them.
I don't know if one of them's like young Robert De Niro or something. So okay.
Nobody in the fraternity. This was a Jewish fraternity at UCLA.
Oh,
And nobody went into show business except me, except everybody's a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist. And
Oh.
all of them became my doctors or my lawyers or my dentists.
oh, this is great. This is your play, right?
Yeah, well, this is John Wilkes Booth and me. And this is actually at the museum, the Lincoln Museum in Springfield, Illinois. And they have
That's a wax figure.
Yeah, that's a wax figure. And they have everybody else is taking pictures with Lincoln and his family, and I'm taking pictures with John Wilkes Booth.
Tell people why, though. Tell people why.
Okay, well, I wrote a play called An Evening with John Wilkes Booth. It's a one-man show. And I did it way back when, and then we've recently done it again. We have a new actor playing the role. And I did a lot of research and actually sold a miniseries to CBS on that subject. The Brothers Booth, relationship between John Wilkes Booth and Edwin Booth. And I've written a lot of historical plays, and this was the first one.
So the one I saw, the one I went to review,
Yeah.
that was the one in Hollywood on Santa Monica.
Right. Yeah, won an award there. Yeah, we had a wonderful actor, Steph Spiegel.
Right.
And
What version is that? Which one is that?
that's An Evening with John Wilkes Booth, redone. The same play that I wrote back when.
But you adapted it, right? You rewrote it.
Yeah, we reworked it, and he's a wonderful actor. And I'd seen him in a play, Steph, he played in a Othello. He played Iago.
Right, and that play was intense for a one-man show. It was very visceral, very intense, and it was like, wow.
Right.
You walk out of the theater with a different opinion of Mr. Booth
Yes,
So,
you do. I don't want you to ever like him, but I
right,
want you to understand him.
right.
And it's interesting. I've done lots of historical plays, and usually they get standing ovations. This guy is a fantastic, but people feel funny about standing ovations for John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah.
So,
But you learn so much. There's so much
yeah,
depth to what went in that guy's head.
that's
And
right.
like you said, the actor performing it was just simply amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a fabulous actor.
oh, I love this.
Yeah, yeah. This is my dad and me, and as I said, we were the only father-son producing team in the business.
Wow.
And yeah,
So
and,
when was this taken? And is this his backyard, your backyard?
yeah, this was at his house, and that leading showing his backyard. That was probably shortly before he passed away about 11 years ago,
Okay.
and that was probably a year or two before that. So
Can I ask
yeah,
how old he was when he passed?
he passed away in 94.
Oh, wow.
94. And he was
Oh,
active. He's a writer to his soul, and he was active right up until 2 weeks before he passed away. He'd finished his autobiography, but
wow.
it's not for publication. It's just about the family and all that. So
Right. And I don't know if I've ever asked you this before. Are you ever going to do kind of like a personal memoir of your life, your career?
oh, I've written it
Oh, you have?
as a
What
book.
is it out? Is it coming? What is it?
No, I haven't even tried to publish it. It's just maybe, it's funny. I've written a book. I had one book published on the history of Brady Bunch, Brady. And I've written a lot of other books that are kind of in the work. And I felt if I ever got very successful, and I'm not as successful as my father, he was a legend, and I'm kind of not. I'm kind of moderately well known, but he was super well known. And I felt that if I ever got that well known, I would publish the book, and the title of it would be "The Sun Also Rises." S-O-N. The Sun Also Rises. But until that moment, I probably won't try to publish it. So.
Oh, okay. Great picture.
Yeah.
I love this. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I've seen this magazine, and were they doing a story on Barbara, on you, the house?
Yeah. It was about, let me see, that was about us. It was a story about us. And that's me and Barbara and our son. No.
Before he's kissed, turns into a prince. Okay.
Yeah.
Did they approach you about doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We have done several things. People come and talk to us about things, and we enjoy working together.
Very cute.
We've
Very
done lots of
And
plays.
that's your house, right? I'm assuming that's
Yeah.
your. Okay.
Yeah, that's our house.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Aw.
Yeah, this
Now,
is when
what?
she was the character of Birdie in Hansel and Gretel.
Oh,
And
yes.
she was the one who spreads. I'll tell you one funny thing about that show. We were doing Hansel and Gretel, and Barbara was Birdie, and she spread the breadcrumbs around with little crackers. And then Elliot, my younger son, was playing Hansel in that particular performance. And he goes into the audience and he asks people if you know where the breadcrumbs are. At the audience that particular day was Al Pacino.
No way.
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Hello. So there's a robocall. Anyway, Pacino's there, and Elliot goes up to Al Pacino and he says, "Do you know where the breadcrumbs are?" And Al Pacino goes, "Hey, breadcrumbs, I don't know breadcrumbs." And after that, Elliot would always walk around saying, when I acted with Al Pacino. so
How funny. When was this? How long ago was it?
whoa, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
Okay,
something.
yeah, that's the theater in the background, right? The pictures?
Yeah, that's in the box office. I normally do box office on Saturdays.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what that means, he's taking tickets or selling tickets or, that kind of
Right.
for
Right.
those.
I love it. I love it. I have so much fun when the kids come up there.
I can
And,
definitely say, by observation, you are definitely a people person.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
are definitely prolific. You are definitely a people person. And I haven't seen anything that you've done that didn't either move me, make me laugh, surprise me. And I swear, we need to see more of your stuff in terms of, can your children's plays be done elsewhere, or do they have to be
But
done?
right now, if you go to the Theater West website,
Right.
www.theaterwest.org.
In fact, wait,
Huh?
let's hold on.
Okay, can you put it up there somewhere?
Yeah, give me 1 sec, and that way you can walk me through it.
Okay.
Technology, don't you love it? There we go. Okay, here's the site.
All right. Perfect. And if you go to, that's not a storybook theater play particularly.
I'm like, what was that?
No, but if you go to that website and
Storybook.
punch up storybook,
Here it comes.
they now we have 6 of our shows are on 6 of our shows we have on video that people can watch, and they're pretty good. There was Peter Rabbit, and that was
Oh, David, I know David.
yeah, he was a prince.
And who's the actress there? Who's that?
Her name is Constance. I can't remember her last name. Constance.
Yeah.
And she was, I'm sure that was Cinderella, probably. She was probably the fairy godmother.
There's you and your wife. Children play for 5 years. Doesn't say what that picture is. Oh,
there she
Anthony.
is. Yeah, Anthony. That's Anthony. He was the woodcutter.
And Barbara. Let me move that over.
Right.
There's Barbara.
Yeah.
How funny. Anthony's another one. Very funny, very versatile singer, dancer. Now this is the one I didn't see, right? This is Peter Rabbit?
This is the most recent one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said this is online now? We can see these?
Yeah. There's 6 of them that are online. We did those professionally. We actually did them not at the theater, but we built a stage for them. We've done 6 of them, and they're really good. I mean, they're as interactive as they can be on video, because we talk to the audience. Yeah, these are just some of the plays.
Okay, what is that? View the digital Eden magazine here. What's that?
Yeah, I guess there was some article about us.
Okay.
I don't know.
I was hoping there'd be a link. I guess is there?
There's all those shows.
Oh, okay. See, Storybook Theater Goldilocks. So let's just take a quick peek. Is this the whole show, or?
Yeah, it's the whole show.
All right.
The whole show.
Family, starting off a brand new day. We're a furry family, doing things to...
There's the kids.
Porridge? Where's the porridge? I don't see any. This stuff?
How funny.
Hey, that stuff looks pretty good. But I don't know. My mom's porridge is so, how do you say it, yucky. I wonder if this stuff's any better. Well, I guess since...
Okay, I'm getting sucked into it. Okay, hold on.
Yeah. I was too for a minute. Yeah.
Apparently those are links. You can watch them there. And there's a link I saw on the bottom for YouTube. There's a YouTube channel for them too.
Yeah.
What else can we find on here on Theater West? Drama.
They have the whole history of the Theater West. Theater West has been around for over 55, 60 years, something like that. The oldest theater in the oldest active theater company in the city. And a lot of famous people have come in through there. You know, everybody from Betty Garrett and Richard Dreyfuss and Carol O'Connor and Sally Field and Bridges people, and lots of them.
Yeah, I've seen a production with Lee Merriweather too there.
Lee Merriweather, she's even been in one of our children's plays. She was the evil queen.
Really?
And, yeah. I've worked with Lee starting back. I did the Munsters Today TV series. She was Lily Munster. I did that show. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little. Tell us about your impressions and or what you've been doing. 2020 has been a year that I don't think anyone's going to forget or want.
Yeah.
What have you been doing? Please.
Well, we were going to have a national tour of Very Brady musical, which I wrote, and that had to get postponed. But they've done a Zoom version of it. I don't think you can see it, but it was done as a money-making thing for a theater in Maine. It was a name I can never pronounce, but all of the people in it were Broadway people. And It was very successful as a money-making thing for that theater until we can get around, because that's where the Very Brady musical will next year, when we get back to sanity, it will have a national tour. And I think it's going to come here to the La Mirada. So,
okay.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, and I've just been working on now with, you may know Adrienne Russ. I don't know if you know her from, yeah. Adrienne and I have been working on a show about Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, a musical about their friendship. And so we're just now starting to work on it with two actresses and do some recording of it. And we're figuring out to see if we can place that again after theaters open up again. And then at the same time, I have a one-woman show on Mary Walker, the only woman to win the Congressional Medal of Honor. And that plays colleges and things. And so there may be part, and also the Booth show. So both of those might go into one-person festivals coming up. And then I sold, I have the pilot for CBS, and then I sold a feature film, a couple of feature films that are going to get done soon.
Can you talk about those?
One of those is Mary Walker movie. I don't know what they're going to call it. The play was called Independence, and it's to David Permit, and it's through Walden Productions, and it'll be a big feature that I've written the screenplay for. So there's, and then during this time, I've written, lots of things, and I'm starting to talk to people about them, and if they can get sold before we, and we can film that later, that would be great. And I just knock off stuff.
Wow. So, so what do you want to be when you grow up?
I've never found any kind of advantage to being an adult. I never did that. So I know every time I put a tie on, I always think this is silly.
Really? You're not a tie guy, black tie guy?
No. I remember I was an executive for a while at ABC during the glory years. I was on Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Three's Company, What's Happening. I was working on all those shows, and I did that for about a year. And then I had a tie burning party because I had to wear ties. So I had everybody over and I burned all my ties. But
okay, now I got to touch base on that. So you said if you did that for about a year. What were you doing bouncing from show to show?
Okay. I had been a producer, and then they asked me to go over to ABC. And so I would have to go to see these shows and give notes and things. And I think that you can improve this or that because I was fresh eyes. So I have to go to all the different tapings and things on each of those shows. And then it was not right for me because they had what I call little victories. I mean, if I really fight with them, I could have them change the name Charlie to Chuck or something. And so I was then offered to produce the show What's Happening because they liked me on that. And so I left ABC and did that. And then I was also head of comedy development for Paramount for a while. So I've been all around. When you say, what do I want to do when I grow up? I want to do whatever the show demands. And if I can't do it myself, then I have to find the people that can, because all the movies and the plays and all, those are like my children. And so my job is to give birth to these things. They can't just stay on my computer. So after I write them, I have to find a way, what I call the path, to getting something done.
Get them produced.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, can you, I mean, I'm sure you've been asked this before, with your varied career and all the wonderful talent you've either worked with or, against or whatever. Can you tell us a few memorable stories of working with people that either impressed you or, you were surprised by?
I remember I worked with Vincent Price, and he was doing a Brady episode. And I was associate producer. I went there. I was always trying to be the first person there. But when I got there, he was already there. And we just started talking. And he was a wonderful raconteur, do all about art and food. He knew gourmet food. I knew hamburgers. We just would talk. And then he said to me an interesting thing. He said, "Do you know why I'm here so early?" And I said, "No, why?" And he said, "Because there's no place else I'd rather be." And which was filming and stuff. And he was a wonderful guy that way. I had a chance to work with Imogene Coca.
Oh, wow.
And she was interesting because she was nothing
funny? Is she funny?
No, very funny, but very shy. She was probably the shyest person I've ever met. She would, if you were interviewing her, she wouldn't even look at you. But when she got on stage, she was like a lion. And it was really quite incredible. And I loved her. And we did one show, actually a Brady show. I had Imogene and Ann B. Davis. And these are two of my favorite women, on the show. And they worked nothing alike. Imogene was spontaneous. She was kind of like Robin Williams. You never knew when she got in a series. You never know where she was going to go. But that's not good or bad. That's just how she worked. And Ann B. Davis was very methodical, but it was neat. It was really neat that way. So, but I've
Wow.
worked, with, some big people and got along with everybody with a couple notable exceptions. And that was about it.
How about stories about, they're always called the suits. Like when you're producing a show, do the suits, the
Oh, the
executives?
suits. Oh, suits. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, do the executives get in the way a lot? Or is that just a myth?
I've been blessed. Not really. They haven't gotten in the way. I mean, they get in the way when you try to sell something and they don't buy it. That's in the way. But because of the legendary status of Brady and Gilligan, when we do either any of these shows, they figure we know more than they do. And in fact, when we did Rescue from Gilligan's Island, which was a 2-hour movie, and the executive, we met with the executive, we said, well, how do you want it? You want to see the script, the outline? She said, just bring back the film. She
Wow.
says, I don't understand Gilligan's Island. I don't know why it works. You guys do. Bring back the film. And we never heard from the executive again. And it was the highest rated movie in 2 years on television.
Wow.
I mean, I was even in it. I mean, we could do anything we wanted.
Where were you in it? What
well,
did you do?
I played a guy who was waiting for Mary Ann for 15 years while she was on the island, and like that. So, and the same thing happened maybe with Very Brady Christmas. They just kind of left us alone, and that was the highest rated movie in a couple of years too. So,
Wow.
so they kind of think that we know.
Do you think with your new shows that you're presenting, you'll be allowed to do that, have that kind of freedom? Or
No.
okay.
Nope.
I
Nope.
mean, do they censor it? They look at the script and like, no.
There's so much more involved. There's so much more involved now. And fortunately, I'm working with my son, and he knows this business better than I do, the current business. And so he says, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like, I'll give you an example. When Dad created Brady Bunch, he didn't want any character description for the kids. He wanted the kids to be able to be who they were and define themselves as the show was going along. But now everybody, this kid has to be this, and this one has to be smart, and this one has to eat all the time, and this one has to be a scientist or whatever. And so all those are, Brady Bunch kids were just who they were.
Do you watch a lot of current TV?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. I watch a lot of television, but I don't watch much network television.
What do you watch?
Let me see. Curb Your Enthusiasm. I watch a lot of Dodger games. I don't.
Okay.
A lot of movies.
The reason I ask, because from my perspective, in terms of, because I do a lot of reviewing or whatever, think new shows like, have you heard about Disney Plus's The Mandalorian?
I've seen that because I have grandchildren.
And
I thought that was great. I'm not a sci-fi fan, but I thought it was brilliant, and the kids are so involved in that.
I thought it was amazing. It was like watching a Western, a modern Western.
Right.
There was very little dialogue, but you knew exactly what was going on. And the reason, listening to you describe all this, one series comes to mind. Have you ever heard of a series called Episodes with Matt LeBlanc?
Sure. I love that show.
Yeah.
But see, that was a network. I love that show. And believe me, like, I went to college in 1970, 64 to 70, like like that. And then Animal House came out. And people go, what an exaggeration. No, Animal House was exactly the way it was. I mean, it was no exaggeration because I was in a fraternity. And then I worked at the network when the movie network came out. And everybody goes, oh, that's no, that's not an exaggeration. That's just the way the networks really are. And then I was around and I did some feature films, and the movie The Player came out. No, not an exaggeration. That's just the way it is. Episodes is really the way it is.
Oh,
and I thought that was a brilliant show.
What's nice is it's the British produced that show.
Right.
And then brought it, shoot it here in America. And the casting, the commentary of the executives, it's just, I'm like, is it really like that?
It is exactly like that. And I always wonder about whether the network executives getting notes on the network executive scenes and how they feel about it. But that is a show I watched a lot.
Okay, cool. So we're in agreement about some excellent writing out there. So
yes.
It's out there. You just have to find it. I don't know how you feel, but I'm really over reality shows. I mean, I don't.
Well, first of all, I've done one of them, and
which one?
We did a Brady one, Gilligan, the real Gilligan's Island, and it was for TBS, and I hated it. And they forced me into a box there, and I ended up producing with a guy who I didn't like, and I didn't like what he was doing with the show, and he was in charge of it. It was not a good show. But they also understand there's nothing real about reality shows. They're all fake. They're all scripted.
Exactly.
And
even the competition shows, you know, they're supposed to be the best of, and it's like it's a popularity contest. It's not
those
about
things, yes. But you know, if they have a money prize, those things have to be legitimate. I mean, the game, when they have a game, that has to be a legitimate game, and they have people on there giving you the rules and you know all that kind of stuff that are.
You mean like you mean like Jeopardy?
No, I mean if there's there's a game show where they have to like Ellen shows or something.
Oh.
You know, that those kind of game things and you can win 100,000 if you do something or other. Those are all very legitimate. They have to be legitimate because of the quiz show scandals in 1957.
There's a movie. It's a movie about that, right?
The quiz show, right?
Yeah,
My uncles worked on those shows too, so I have a long history. But yeah, when all that came about, the FCC said networks are in charge. You guys got to watch out everything. And so after then, all has to be legitimate.
Wow. Are all your kids in the business, or?
I only have 2 kids, and they're both in the business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Andrew.
Because of you, as far as you encouraged it, or did they say, you know what, I want to do this?
Barbara says if we were farmers, they'd be farmers. You know, so when we took Andy to UCLA, he went to UCLA also. Both Elliot did also. But we took him there. We said, okay, the world is wide open to you. You can be absolutely anything you want. He says, like a producer or a director. I go, no, like a doctor or a lawyer. You know? And then he went into this. And then Elliot was started off as a very good, talented actor. You may have seen him like when we did Classic Couples Counseling. I remember that one. But and a lot of children's theater. But he decided to go on my side of the camera or the stage. And he was working. You may not like this. He was working for reality shows for a while, but he went to the reality company. Very interesting. He said to them, I quit. And he quit because he wanted to not go be where television is. He wants to be where television is going. There's a future. And he didn't want to be mired in just doing what's doing. And so he works for a company called Vice Entertainment. And he's very high up there. And he does all kinds of branded entertainment and stuff that's very different than what we're seeing normally. And it's very interesting. And he's very happy doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Any other highlights in your career you want to talk about or bring up? I know you.
Well, I said this line when toward the end of my dad's life, and he was always being interviewed, and I gave him a line, and I will borrow it because I gave it to him. And the question is, what's his favorite show? And Dad, because he has these legendary shows, what's his favorite show? And he says, as I will say, the next one.
Really?
The next one's always my favorite show. And I have lots of things that could go, and I'm very proud of the ones I've done. I don't, there was a fellow I know whose name shall be nameless, who is a son of a very famous guy. And he said to me, we ought to start an organization about sons of famous people. But that's how he identifies himself, as the son of a guy. And, hello, I'm the son of. And I said, that's the last thing I want to do. I said,
wow.
In fact, when I work with my dad, I said, I'll only work with you if I can also do my own things too, because I can't lose my identity that way.
And he was okay with that, right?
He totally. In fact, he never knew where I lived. And I lived about 5 miles from him because I said, look, I work with you all day long. You're my parents on the weekend. I got to go someplace where you just aren't there. And they, and it was not facetious or anything or cruel.
If I could ask, what did your mom do? What was your mom?
My mom was a housewife. That's what she did. That's what she did. She was very Carol Brady. And in fact, if you look at the Brady Bunch, that's basically the relationships in our family. We weren't a blended family, but all that Mike Brady kind of stuff, that was my dad. And all the Carol Brady stuff, that was my mom.
Wow. So you had the warm meals when you came home and everything.
And we had a housekeeper.
Oh, you did? Oh, cool.
Yes. Yeah,
wow.
Not Alice. I mean, we had different Japanese or, Asian or all kinds of people.
Do you have a favorite childhood memory with your father?
Yeah. my favorite memory with my father, and we were living in Studio City, and we had a driveway, which was a steep driveway, and it was my job, my chore, was to take the trash cans out. And we separated trash in those days, just like we do now. And we had this little garbage dolly, and I was at the top of the hill, and the garbage can fell off the dolly and spewed all these cans, made a huge noise, and they rolled all the way down the driveway. And I'm just horrified with what I've done. And my dad came out of the house, and he came over and he saw this debacle there. And I'm just practically in tears. And he says, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Look what I did." He said, "Well, were you trying to do something good, like taking the trash out?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Now, what are you worried about?" And then we picked up the trash together, and it was really a great moment. So it was a very Mike Brady kind of moment, but that's who he was.
Wow. Okay. Let me wipe a little tear here. Very cool.
Many great moments with my dad. I mean, both professionally and as a father. So
okay, here's a switch. How about a special moment with your sons when they were young? Is there a memory one with them?
Let me see. I didn't know where this interview was going to go this way, so I have to take a moment here.
No problem. I mean, I don't want to intrude.
Yes. Oh, yeah. This is Elliot would love this moment. Barbara did a commercial, and so they sent a VCR, videotape of the commercial. Barbara was not home. The commercial arrived, and I said to Elliot, he said, "Let's go watch it." I said, "No, we're not going to watch that. We're going to wait till Mom comes home because it's her commercial, and then we're going to watch it together." He says, "Okay." So I'm working, doing what I'm doing, and Elliot kind of disappeared.
Uh-oh.
And then he comes in, and I said, "Elliot, did you watch the commercial?" Because he carefully put it backward. And he goes, No. I said, "Elliot, did you watch the commercial?" He says, No. I said, "Elliot, you didn't rewind it." And he said, "Yes, I did."
Gotcha. What was his reaction? Did he kind of freeze and go?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, funny. How old was he?
Yeah. 26. No, he was, I would say, I don't know, 8, something like that.
Okay.
Something like that.
How funny.
Yeah.
Well, at least you got a sense of humor. You got your father's sense of humor. You got your, the kids.
Barbara always says, if you don't have a sense of humor in our family, you're lost. You better.
And Barbara herself, to be an actress and a performer and all that, she's got herself going. And
yeah, she's great. We have a great time. We're married 40. Next, in a couple of weeks, it'll be 45 years.
Wow! Congratulations.
As I tell her 45 of the most recent years of my life.
Aw, will you stop? Stop. Okay. Well, listen. I tell you what. The last thing I'm going to do, and then we're going to wrap this up. People watching this, obviously amazing career. Say somebody wants to be a writer or a theater producer or get into television and film. What advice would you give anybody wanting to do this career?
You have another hour here.
We can do 2 parts. It's up to you. It's up to you.
First of all, writing is the easiest of those things to do because anybody can write. Don't be a person who says, I always meant to write. You can write. And also, you don't have to have particular skills in terms of spelling and knowing the form. There's things that can actually do that for you now.
Yep.
If you go on Final Draft or one of those kind of programs. The other thing I would absolutely suggest, if you know what you want to do, what kind of field you're going into, I would get in touch with, and you can do this through emails or letters or whatever, somebody you admire who does what you do. And just say, "Hey, can I take you to lunch? Can I just like that?" People are always up for a free lunch. And then when you're talking to them, they'll get to know who you are and maybe introduce you, get you on a set or, follow you or something.
But I got a question. But do you think people would actually respond?
Yes. Well, let me say this. Let's say you send 50 of these letters out or emails. That's free. Let's say 2 respond or 1 responds. You have lost nothing.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And the reason I ask is, I want to be a director, so I'm going to write Spielberg and Lucas and all these other things. I kind of got the impression they're not going to have.
Okay. Okay. Nowadays, because cameras are so sophisticated, you can do a little scene or something.
Oh, okay.
And you can enter it in a festival. There's all kinds of these things. There's nothing stopping you from doing something. Don't be just, just do it. Just do it. You know, I've been the first to do a whole bunch of stuff, and it's always because I just did it,
Right.
you know? And so, yeah, don't be shy about it. Don't be shy about it. And let's say maybe the first stuff is not going to be that good. Then somebody's going to tell you it's not that good. You're going to learn why it isn't. I mean, that's all.
Yeah. Take the criticism. Take the criticism and run with it.
You got it.
Because some people have thin skin, and that's not good.
No. Hey, well, you know the stories about how long it took to sell this or that. Hey, I worked on the movie Airplane. You know, the script of Airplane. Worked with those guys. They went out and they was turned down 75 times. And I said to them, why was that turned down out of? They said, well, everybody said this isn't funny. And that's why Airplane was turned down. And then eventually, you know, it's one of the top funniest movies ever made.
Wow. I mean, well, if you think about it, how do you think that script? Have you seen the script?
Which Airplane?
Yeah.
Oh, I worked on it. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you get, studios to invest millions of dollars into guy walks in, bucket of water falls. The line is "Don't call me."
Well, they had already done one movie, so that gave them they had already done a Kentucky Fried Movie. Okay, so that was
true. The Zucker brothers, right?
Yes. But then they needed to get Howard Koch, a legitimate major producer, to agree to do it, and that was how that finally got made.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a term which I use, which is I think important for this part of the discussion, which is the path. When you come up with something, it's not just a matter of writing. It's how do I get this done? What's the path for this particular thing? Like the one-person show, which has led to the feature film. I knew somebody who had a big producer, came to the one-person show. And afterwards I went to him, I knew the producer. I said, David, he said, that's an incredible character. What a great story. I said, but that's just a one-person play, David. This is the movie. And I gave him the script that I had already written. That was my path. And then that's what sold.
So you kind of laid the grounds for it's future.
How do I get this done? That's the thing. How do I get this done? And the path is different for everything.
Are you big on classes in school and degrees and all that?
Sure. But anything to get you to do something, I'm in favor of.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not necessarily in favor of a college lecturer just telling you things and he's not been in the business. I taught at UCLA and I was in the business, and I had people come as guest lecturers who were already in the business. So it was, it was it was very funny. I took a class there, history of television, and sitting next to me was Rob Reiner. And so we're sitting there and the teacher was saying a bunch of things that just weren't true because we knew the history of television. His dad and my dad invented television. So it was like,
wow.
It was
did you say anything? Did you guys speak up?
No.
Okay. No. Wow. Cool. Okay. Anything else you want to throw out before we wrap up?
No, I think it's good. I got to get to the market and where I put a mask on and go to the market. So.
Okay. Well, listen, Lloyd, thank you so much for doing this. This is a wonderful experience. I love seeing your shows. Anything you do, it seems to work well. And
thank you.
And it's just, your work is amazing. Anyway.
I appreciate it.
Anyway, thank you so much. Everyone, if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button. I believe it's down here somewhere. I also have that little bell that'll also let you know, send you an email when my new shows drop. Just in case you haven't heard, I have the Unboxing the Geek Authority show, where I actually show people things that I open up for the first time that I get sent. So you see it, I see it, we all see it for the first time. I have the Mysterious Chamber of Collectibles, where I basically pull out of my closet under my bed things that I've been collecting for years, and show you what has been made and what's out there, as well as a show called Talk About, where I actually talk about different subjects, old TV shows, new TV shows, as well as one that was really good, a three-parter. Friends and family got together and talked about Disneyland and California Adventure closing, and you don't really miss anything, miss something until it's gone because of the pandemic. So check them out. Thank you again. Lloyd, this was great fun. Let's
had a
go
great
out on a
time.
bang here and tell everyone bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.